According to the CDC, nearly 6 million people every year die due to cigarette or tobacco-related illnesses. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the population of Colorado that's dying every year due to cigarettes. Now, a lot of people try quitting. They use the gum, they use the patch, and none of this really works for any of them. If you're a smoker, you know. Some people try and quit once a month, maybe even once a year if they're not as ambitious. Electronic cigarettes are going to be the future of smoking. My claim to you today is that they are going to be the best tool to use for cigarette smokers to quit. The reason why they are the best is because they provide a customized experience for the user. They vaporize liquid in such a way that it is actually safe and effective for the user, and it delivers the nicotine in an effective way, and they produce no harmful side effects for that user. So what we're going to talk about first is how they customize the experience for the user. Now, I'm sure all of you have seen those disposable cigarettes in gas stations, and those are the most basic type of vaporizers. They're cheap, they're easily accessible, and they get you into the arena of electronic cigarettes. Now, when someone truly decides to quit smoking, most likely what they're going to do is they're going to find something like an Ego-style battery. Now, an Ego-style battery is just a battery with an attachment on the end where you can screw some type of tank or atomizer onto the end of it to vaporize the liquid that contains nicotine. One step up from that is a variable voltage or variable wattage device. These devices allow the user to customize the heat and voltage delivered to their atomizer that's vaporizing this liquid. Essentially what it does is it allows you to adjust how much liquid is being vaporized at any given time and how hot or warm the vapor is. The next type of vaporizer, which is the most advanced, is called a mechanical mod, if I can use a little bit of slang. Essentially what these are used for is completely customizing the type of experience that you're having. You build the atomizers yourself, you have complete control over every aspect of what you're using and how you're using it. Now what's also important is the flavors that you have. Each flavor is completely designed by someone who has probably had an experience in the food industry. And according to, and I always butcher this name because it is an Italian doctor, Dr. Constantinos Farsilianos, actually said that this customization is probably what is going to be the key for most users in quitting. They create an experience for themselves that is actually preferable to the nicotine psychologically and chemically. Now, a lot of people are scared of these things, and they don't completely understand how it works. And part of the reason why legislation is being put into place is because there is very little understanding about what goes into making these products and how they even deliver nicotine to the user. So essentially what it is that there is a type of absorbent material, cotton, silica, anything that can absorb this liquid, that is placed near a coil that will heat up when an electric current is passed through it. The battery that you use discharges the current into the coil, and that heat will vaporize the liquid that contains synthetically created nicotine. Once the liquid is vaporized, the user will inhale it into their lungs and it's delivered into their bloodstream. What this does is it delivers the nicotine to the user, which is the addictive substance, without creating any type of danger or chemical reaction in their lungs. This is actually also the reason why it is going to be safe for the user. Because there's zero combustion, only really boiling or vaporizing of the liquid, there are zero carcinogens found in these devices. This also creates a safer environment for users or people around people who are using these devices. There is zero secondhand vapor and zero nicotine found in an environment that someone has been quote-unquote vaping in for a specific period of time. So essentially what it boils down to is a customized experience for the user, a safe delivery system, and zero side effects for the user or people around them. These are going to be the future of smoking. And even though Fullerton College is against it right now, I believe that they are going to come around, because this is going to be the key to saving millions of lives every year. Smoking is dead, vaping is the future, and the future is now.
All right, Nick, you used some information at the beginning to get our attention, talking about the dangers of smoking, and you identify what the subject is pretty effectively. Your proposition is phrased a little bit awkwardly. It actually sounds like it's got multiple component parts to it, and the term best is very much a value-laden term. I think a more appropriate term might be efficient or effective. That's more objective. And then you could focus on what the goal of vaping is, which is to either replace tobacco with non-toxic nicotine vapors, or to wean people off of this, like you're talking about, using it as similar to the patch or the nicotine gun, that sort of thing. I do think that you could establish that there's a little bit more controversy on this in a couple of ways. First of all, you mentioned that the gum and the patch don't always work, or that they fail, or there's something wrong with them. I don't get any data or information on that. So if people are incapable of responding to those issues, if they haven't been effective at moving people off of cigarettes, you need to give us some proof on that. You basically make it as a presupposition without any backup. And then later on in the speech, I think there are a couple of places where you're suggesting that there are legislative issues that are going on here, like our campus has a prohibition on vaping, that there's been discussion of legislation that might limit it or treat it the same as smoking. I think those would be things that you could put at the beginning to show that there's some controversy on the subject, and that's why we need to talk about this. And then some of the other things that you talk about would seem a little bit more relevant, because 80% of your speech basically sounds like an explanation of how these products work. Sure. Not what is controversial about them, what people are afraid of, what the problem is that we're faced with. So I get a technical description of the equipment and how it can be modified, or how it produces the vapors, or the different forms in which it comes in, all those sorts of things. But that all sounds like it's informative presentation. Where's the inference that's being made? To me, it seems like the inference ought to be that this is easier for people to use than the patch or nicotine gum, that it's more effective at moving people off of the carcinogens that come with cigarettes, that it is safe for people to use, that there's no, for instance, secondhand issue that you have to worry about. You do say that there's no carcinogens in this. I believe that that's true. I'm not, when I make the next comment, I don't want you to think that I am ignorant on what's going on. You need to present the proof on that, because although I believe that that's true, the world's full of people who are going, well, how can there be no carcinogens? I see people sucking smoke in their face, and you need to point out, that the vapor is different than smoke. It is, like you said, it's primarily water. The nicotine, you think you need to demonstrate, for instance, that there's no damage that occurs because of the nicotine consumption, that it is all just, the addiction-oriented thing, that it's the thing that people crave, but that the nicotine has no harmful consequences to it, no side effects, and it's not responsible for all of those 6 million deaths that you're talking about that are happening every year, that there's nothing unsafe per se about nicotine. I think you need to build that into your argument a little bit more as well.
Okay.
The presentation, I think, is generally solid. I think a little bit at the end there's some uncertainty, and in kind of getting into the speech there was a little bit. When you're describing the products and how it works, you're doing fine with that. But outside of, kind of like at the beginning and the middle, there's a little bit of uncertainty. I did like your exit line, though, and I thought you had a pretty effective summary of the point that you were trying to make. All right, thank you.